dog training book, I find this oddball. Signal magnitude and fading. Learned cues or signals do not have to be of any particular volume or size to get results. A primary or unconditioned stimulus produces a graduation of results. Depending on its intensity, one reacts more vigorously to a sharp jab than to a pinprick, and the louder the noise, the more it startles. A learned cue, however, merely has to be recognized. To learn to the full response, you see a red light and you stop the car. You don't stop faster or slower depending on the size of the red light fixture. As long as you recognize the signal, you know what to do. Therefore, once a stimulus has been learned, it is possible not only to transfer it, but also to make it smaller and smaller, until it is barely perceivable, and still get the same results. Eventually, you can get results with a signal so small that it cannot be perceived by a bystander. This is a form of fading stimulus. We use fading all the time. What has to be a very broad stimulus? At first, no Dickie, we do not put sand in other children's hair. As you remove Dickie forcibly from the sandbox, becomes with time a small signal, merely a lifted eyebrow or wagged index finger. Animal trainers sometimes get wonderful, apparently magical results with faded stimuli. One of the funniest acts I've seen involved a parrot at the San Diego Wild Animal Park that cackled in hysterical laughter in response to a tiny movement of the trainer's hands. You can see the possibilities. Pedro, what do you think of this man's hand? Because the audience did not see the signal, the parrot's signal behavior seemed and produced a sardonic intelligence cut in the answer in the question. Actually, it was a well-timed response to a well-faded stimulus. And the sardonic intelligence of many belonged to the trainer or maybe the scriptwriter. The best examples of conditioning fading are transferring stimuli I have observed occurred not in the world of animal training, but in symphony rehearsal halls. As an amateur singer, I worked in several opera and symphony choruses, often under guest conductors, while many of the signal conductors give to musicians are more or less standardized. Each conductor has personal signals as well. The meaning of these must be established in a very short time. Rehearsal time often barely exceeds performance time. Once in a rehearsal of Mahler's Resurrection Symphony, just as the basses were about to make their usual booming entrance, I watched the conductor establish an unconditioned stimulus, or come in softly by miming an expression of wild alarm and crouching with a hand thrown across his face as if to ward off a blow. Everyone got the message, and in the next few minutes the conductor was able to fade the stimulus, reducing volume in any section of the chorus with alarming violence and a bit of a crouch, or a fleeting echo of the hand gesture, and finally with just a flinch of the shoulder. Conductors also often transfer stimuli by combining a known or obvious gesture, an upward movement of the palm for louder, say with an ongoing unknown gesture such as personal tilt of the head or turn of the body. Sitting on the conductor's left in the alto section, I once saw a guest conductor momentarily transfer all the alto's louder signals to his left elbow. Well, one result of establishing stimulus control is that the subject must become attentive if it wants to be reinforced for responding correctly, especially if the stimuli are faded. In fact, the subject may eventually be able to perceive signals so subtle that the trainer is not even aware of giving them. One classic example is the case of the clever hands, a horse in Germany at the turn of the century, which was said to be genius. By pawing with its foot, it could count, do arithmetic, spell out words, and even do square roots. Right answers were, of course, rewarded with a tidbit. The owner, a retired school teacher, truly thought he had taught the horse to read, think, do math, and communicate. Indeed, the animal would answer questions when the owners were not present. Many learned gentlemen traveled to Berlin to study clever hands and were convinced the horse was a genius. One psychologist, however, eventually demonstrated the horse was being cued somehow, in that if no one in the room knew the answer, the horse would paw indefinitely. It took much further investigation over the protests of those who were convinced the horse really was genius to demonstrate that the cue to stopping pawing was a minuscule lift of the owner's or any questioner's head when the bright number was reached. A movement originally exaggerated by a broad-brimmed hat the school teacher wore, but by now so small that it was not only almost impossible to see, except by clever hands, but almost impossible to suppress by conscious effort. That was how the horse could tell when to stop pawing from watching people other than its owner. The clever hands phenomenon has now become the name for any circumstances in which apparently amazing behavior ranging from animal intelligence to psychic phenomena is actually unconsciously cued by some often minute or faded behavior of the experimenter that has become a discriminative stimulus for the subject's behavior.